Twitter, or X now, is the most underrated marketing channel in 2025. However, I used it to grow our B2B SaaS company to over 2,752 new paying subscribers. And these are the 4 elements of the ultimate Twitter marketing plan. But before we get into the first, who am I and why should you even listen to me? So if this is your first time on the channel, my name is Alex. I'm the co-founder of Drippy.ai. We've grown it to over 2,752 new paying subscribers. And on Twitter, I've amassed almost 20,000 followers. So I think I know a thing or two about Twitter marketing as a whole. All right, so the first pillar is high volume, highly personalized outreach. And this is the #1 thing that we're doing on Twitter. And actually most of our subscribers that I just showed you on the screenshot actually come into our funnel from Twitter outreach. And most of our sales calls as well come from initial Twitter outreach. And with this method, we've been able to book over 186 meetings in the last 30 days. This is a screenshot directly from rcal.com. And so why is Twitter outreach so effective right now in 2025? So there are not nearly as many people doing Twitter outreach compared to any other sort of outbound, whether that be Instagram, LinkedIn, cold email, you name it. Twitter allows you to send out a ton of volume. So per every account, you can send up to 500 DMs every single day. You get direct access to decision makers where really no one else is reaching out to them, and there's no executive assistants taking care of their Twitter inboxes. And not only that, but these are actually decision makers that you can't find anywhere else, meaning they're not on any other data platform. There really are no deliverability issues. I know right now cold email is a complete mess just because of deliverability issues. The barrier to entry is actually quite high if you don't know what you're doing, which if you want to learn, then stick around because I'm going to walk you through the complete setup in this video. And the user base is consistently increasing now that Elon Musk took over. And with that being said, Twitter is literally the only place where Elon Musk himself will reply to you directly. Like, this literally doesn't happen anywhere else. And so this is a thread I posted back in September, and Elon Musk himself actually freaking replied to me, which is pretty cool. All right, so this all sounds amazing, but how do we actually set out the Twitter outreach system? So you can have one or multiple accounts. Really just depends on the amount of volume that you want to be shooting out. In order for you to be able to do this at scale and for the message to actually be personalized, there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can either leverage people or you can leverage software. If you leverage people, essentially you just build out SOPs and then give it to your team in order to personalize each and every single message. However, that is very expensive once you actually get to the scale that we're going to be talking about today, which is at least you want to be sending 2,000 messages every single day. And so to send high volume, you really need to have all your accounts connected to something like Drippy.ai that will allow you to personalize at scale using AI. All right, so one of the most important things when it comes to actually setting up a Twitter outreach system is where you get accounts, how you verify accounts, because every single account that you used to do outreach from must be verified. And what I mean by that is that it must have the blue check. And so this is how we do it. So you want to either buy or make X accounts or Twitter accounts, then you want to connect each one of those to a specific proxy. Then you want to optimize these accounts to look like they're just a regular human being. Then you're going to have to wait 3 days, which we're going to get into here, to verify the account and go through this whole thing. Once they're verified, then you can connect them to Drippy. You can start sending messages. Then you can reply to all the messages directly within Drippy in the uni box, meaning you can add 50, 100, however many accounts you'd like. And you can answer all the messages from one spot. Then you'll book sales calls, which will in turn convert into paying clients. Now, again, like I said, the most important thing here and really the most difficult part here and where people typically get stuck is the verification process, right? Why? Because it's really not the easiest thing to do, especially when you start getting into proxies and when you start getting into higher volume, because of the fact that we're going to need a ton of different cards to actually verify all these accounts. And then it's like, okay, well, I bought proxies. Where do I connect them? How do I actually connect the proxy to the account? All that sort of good stuff. So again, how does the whole verification process work? So you're either going to buy or you're going to make accounts. If you're making them, make sure you email and phone verify them. However, in our experience, the easiest thing is to just buy them and have them be email and phone verified, and just kind of double check with your supplier. I'm not going to name any suppliers, but there's a bunch of them out there. You can kind of just ask like, hey, are these accounts email and phone verified? Just make sure they are, because if they're not, then it just becomes a whole nother mess, because you need to get a bunch of different emails and a bunch of different phone numbers to do the authentication, like all that stuff, and you really don't want to get into that. So if you can buy accounts that are email and phone verified already, then that is the best way to go about it. Then before you start start changing the profile picture, changing the name, changing the username, you want to buy proxies. Ideally, you want to be buying static residential proxies. And so essentially, once you have your proxies, you want to use something like GoLogin or Hide My Account. Essentially, you just need an anti-detect browser software that will allow you to connect proxies to it, and then you log into those proxies and you open up Twitter accounts within those proxies. However, you want to make sure that you are only using one proxy per account. You don't want to be using the same proxy for multiple accounts because it kind of just defeats the purpose of having a proxy. And just so that we're all on the same page, what the proxy will do is it'll mask your IP address, right? So if you're setting up 100 accounts, you don't want all of those to be linked to your IP address where you log into your actual Twitter account, right? So obviously for your own Twitter account, you will not need a proxy. You'll essentially just need to verify it, and then you can connect it to Drippy. But for all the fake accounts that you're going to be creating, in order to actually send enough volume, you really will need one proxy per account connected to one of these softwares, and then you log into one account per proxy. And so once you have that, then you can change the profile picture, change the name, change the username to just make it look like any regular human being. At this stage, before you buy the verification, so we're right here, okay? Before we buy the verification, you really don't want to brand the account to your company. You just want to make it as regular as can be. Think of like a sunset cover photo, live, love, laugh type of stuff in the description. Again, you don't want to brand it to your company just yet. That will be until after the verification. However, you do want to set the username, the name, and the profile picture at this point in time, because whenever you change one of those three things, the actual verification will go away and Twitter will have to re-verify your account, and it just kind of makes the process a whole lot longer. So you'll just want to hold off on that, okay? So once we change profile picture, name, and username, then we're gonna have to wait 3 days in order to verify the accounts. What I mean by that is actually buy the verifications, then we'll buy the verification. It'll take anywhere between 3 to 5 days for the verification to actually appear, which is when we'll actually be able to start sending messages, okay? Or actually, before we launch with low volume, now we're gonna actually optimize the accounts to your business, meaning now you're gonna add links to your website, you're gonna change the cover photo, you're gonna start adding content, all that sort of good stuff. And while you wait, I highly recommend that you log into each and every single account so that you add content, you interact with other accounts within your niche, you like some stuff, all that sort of good stuff, just to make the accounts look as professional and as real as possible. And then so you do that with one account, and then you can just kind of keep repeating that process until you have 10, 20, 100 accounts. Doesn't really matter. The more accounts you have, the more replies you're going to get, and in turn, the more calls you're going to book, the more deals you're going to close. So you can really do this with however many accounts you'd like. And like I said, the best part about Twitter outreach and why I think it works so well, other than the fact that no one is really reaching out to these leads, is that you can literally send up to 500 messages per day per account. And this is a direct screenshot from Twitter terms of service, okay? However, this might change. If you're watching this maybe a year, 2 years down the road, this might not be the case anymore, which is why I highly encourage everyone to take advantage of this while this is still a thing. And like I said, you can send up to 500 messages per day per account, but typically, just to err on the safe side, we end up sending between 200 and 300 new messages per day, and on top of that, we end up sending follow-ups, okay? And so that's what I typically recommend. And so meaning if you want to be sending out 10,000 cold DMs per day, you only need 50 Twitter accounts. And I say only because if you compare that to something like Goldemo or LinkedIn, you'd need way more than 50 either emails or LinkedIn accounts, right? Which can get really expensive. And if you want to be a little bit more on the conservative side of things, you want to send 2,000 cold DMs per day, you'd only need 10 Twitter accounts. However, again, in order for this to work, all the accounts need to be set up correctly. And like I said, you need to make sure that not only whenever you're setting up the accounts, you're using a dedicated proxy and dedicated IP addresses, but that the sending software is also using those, or that the sending software allows you to connect your own proxies to the tool so that whenever the sending tool starts sending messages on your behalf, you're not sharing IP addresses with any other accounts, okay? Again, you must make sure that every single account has its own dedicated IP address so that your accounts don't get damaged by other senders that aren't doing the whole setup process correctly. And you might be asking yourself, well, why? Because if this happens, not only can your accounts get banned, but even worse, they could get burned, which means that your messages will literally never land in the main inbox again. And what makes it worse than getting banned is that you'll still be paying for the verification. And if you have a ton of accounts, you probably won't even know that you're not landing in the inbox, and you'll just be wondering why your results suck so much. So again, you just want to make sure that you do the whole setup correctly. correctly, because if not, your accounts will get blacklisted, okay? And so this is just a quick checklist that you can run through whenever you are setting up new accounts. Number one, you need to make sure each account is phone verified. You need to make sure each account is email verified. You need to make sure each account has a blue check. You need to make sure each account has its own IP address and is not being shared either by your sending tool. And so Drippy actually does two things, which is why I always recommend going with Drippy. Number one, whenever you connect an account, it'll actually let you connect your own proxy to it. Or number two, if you don't have a proxy, it'll assign a proxy to you that will never be shared with any other accounts. You also want to make sure that you are optimizing accounts properly. You want to make sure that accounts are properly warmed up. And how we do this is we always start off accounts at 6 messages per hour, and then we increase by 2 per week until we hit 16 per hour, which ends up being around 384 messages a day. And that's pretty much where we max it out in terms of new messages, because you got to remember, on top of that, you'll be sending a bunch of follow-ups. Okay, so you always want to just be below the 500 mark. Again, you want to make sure that you're staying within the sending limits, and Drippy will do this automatically for you, so you don't need to really do any math. It will just stop the automations and send you an email whenever you've reached the limits. And you also want to make sure that your scripts are not spammy and that each one is personalized, which I will get into here very, very shortly. And finally, you want to make sure you have an easy way of replying to prospects, because if it's a whole thing to actually reply to someone, you're not going to do it. You're going to end up waiting too long to reply to messages, and leads are going to go cold on you, which you really, really don't want. You really should be replying to messages. All right, so in terms of what results you can expect from this, and this is just kind of based off of our experience and just a bunch of our clients, for every 1,000 to 10,000 prospects that you run through a complete 3 follow-up cold DM sequence, you should be able to close at least one high ticket client. And I specifically say high ticket because that number will be way, way, way higher if you are running a SaaS, which is typically lower ticket, or you just have a lower ticket service off, okay? Whether you're closer to the 1,000 or the 10,000, and what will really determine your success, and this not only goes for Twitter DMs, and this just goes for like outbound in general and marketing in general, is the amount of case studies, testimonials, and or money back guarantees that you have. And so the more proof or the least amount of risk that you have, the closer you'll be to the 1,000, and on the other side of the spectrum, you'll be closer to the 10,000 or even higher. So, and if we just run the math based off of our data, let's just say you have 10 accounts. Each account is sending 200 new messages per day, which again is very, very conservative. You'll be sending DMs to 14,000 new prospects every single week. On average, based off of our reply rate, as you can see right here, 1.6 million DMs sent, 49,000 total replies. That gives us an average of a 3% reply rate, and we have an average of a 50% positive reply rate. So if you're sending 14,000 DMs to new prospects every single week, that means that on average, you'll get 420 new replies every single week, and 210 of them, meaning 50%, will be positive. And so I think, and just in our experience, we find that it is unreasonable for you to not close at least one client if you're getting 210 positive replies per week, right? And this is given that you set everything up correctly and that you have good scripts and that you know how to scrape leads, all that sort of good stuff. But again, this isn't just based off of 100,000 DMs that we've sent. This is 1.6 million DMs worth of data. And so super, super confident saying that you'll at least get a 3% reply rate and a 50% positive reply rate if you do everything correctly. Okay, so now you know how to set up accounts and what you can expect. And so I'm going to walk you through how to set everything up within Drippy.ai, which is my sending tool of choice. And again, we have a little bit of a checklist here so that you can make sure you don't miss anything and you can get access to this document down below in the description. Okay, so here is how I set things up. So number one, again, and this is just going back to what we were talking about, you want to make sure that your accounts are optimized. What do I mean by having an account be optimized? Let me just open up my Twitter. All right, so as you can see here, my Twitter has my face as the profile picture, it has my name, very clean, it has the blue check, the username is very clean, and then I clearly talk about what I do. So co-founder at Drippy, and then I say documenting it at distribution.cx, and then free value, right? So who doesn't love free value? And then there's a link to our YouTube channel, which also conveys a bunch of authority. And so I highly, highly recommend that if you're not doing any sort of content, which we will get into content very, very shortly, but we'll get more into Twitter content, not so much YouTube content, but I highly recommend you also do YouTube content because it will also feed your Twitter content, which again, we will get into here shortly. And then my cover photo is super, super clean. It's like a very dark purple background and just a clean Drippy logo on the bottom right hand corner. I don't know what it is about it. I just kind of like how it looks. Also, I follow a lot less people than I have followers. So this number, this ratio always just looks good. And having a nice amount of followers is also key to having your account look as good as possible, because you got to remember your profile serves as your landing page whenever you're reaching out to people. Okay. So the first thing they're going to do is if they kind of like your message, they're going to click on your profile, and then this will essentially determine whether or not they're going to reply to you. Okay. So just make sure it looks as clean as possible. And another thing that I highly recommend that literally no one does is having a pinned case study video. Okay. And I specifically say video, and if it's like an edited YouTube video, even better, because it just kind of gives you that authority look that people want to see whenever they're thinking about a service. Okay, so here I talk about it used to be our best case study, not anymore. Now we have an even better one. 161 sales calls, 128K cash collected in just 30 days. And this video kind of breaks down exactly how we do it, and it auto plays. Okay, so this is a YouTube video that I just downloaded from our YouTube and I uploaded as an MP4 file, and it just auto plays. So if I hit refresh here, it'll literally just start playing, right? It won't play with the audio, but people will see that, and it just automatically puts you at another level. So I highly recommend that you start doing this yourself. All right, so once our accounts are optimized, now we can start looking into lead sources. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can start scraping leads. All right, so the first thing we need to do in order to set up our highly personalized cold outreach campaigns is we need to go to find leads within Drippy. There is a link down below in the description for you to test out Drippy for completely free. You have a 7-day or 250 message free trial. So you can go ahead and click that link, create an account. You want to go to find leads, and then you're going to go to new lead sources. You're going to go to lead scraper. Okay. Once we've selected lead scraper, we're going to go ahead and hit account source. And essentially what this means is that you can add any account and you can reach out to their followers or the people that they follow. Okay. So let's just say, for example, that you are targeting agency owners. Okay. We would go to someone like Daniel Fazio. There we go. Shout out my guy, Daniel Fazio. He's the best. And then we would just take his link. We would add it in here. It's going to start loading. And then we can say, okay, let's hit everyone that follows Daniel Fazio and everyone that Daniel Fazio follows as well. So then we're going to add the source. And as you can see, now we have 6.8 thousand potential leads. Okay. So, and you can do this for as many accounts as you'd like, as long as you have sufficient lead credits. I highly recommend that you don't use huge accounts. So typically I like running accounts like this one. I think is like going to be super high quality because this is a new account. Okay. So the bots haven't had a chance to actually go and follow this guy. So these are probably 7,000 super high quality leads. So we're going to go ahead and hit next. And now we're going to actually go into biocon. So there we go. So that is the first thing. So find lead sources. Now we're going to get into filters, how you want to go about filters. And this is super key. 3 main things that you want to focus on. Number 1, number of followers. So in order for you to not reach out to any bots, essentially what you want to do, if you don't have a specific number in mind, and to find that specific number, essentially what you're going to want to do is you want to look at your historical data, meaning you want to look up your existing clients on Twitter and you want to figure out how many followers they have on average, and then just select a number that would include all of your best clients. So if you don't have that yet, I would typically suggest that you just do over 100. And if you have issues with lead quality, then the easiest fix is usually to just increase the number of followers. Okay. So if you do 5,000 followers, if you only reach out to people with over 5,000 followers, you will get better quality replies than if you're just reaching out to people that have under 5,000 followers, right? So it's kind of self-explanatory. There we go. We're going to add a filter. And then our list of 7,000 will go down to, let's say, there we go, 4.7 thousand, which is really good. And then for bio contents, this is super key. So what I typically recommend is that you go into your lead sources and you go to everyone that they follow, because the percentage of high quality leads will actually be higher with the people that these guys follow than they're following. Okay. These guys will probably also be in their following, but again, the ratio of quality will just be way higher if you go after who these guys follow. So for example here, so essentially what you'd want to do is you want to collect the keywords that these guys will have in their bio. Okay, so for example here, Kenon has I help entrepreneurs buy back their time. So I would go here and I would say help, I help, right? So that is the first word that I see here. Coach, maybe, oh actually no, I write cold emails for a living during my coaching program. Scaling, I would do scaling, and then he also had growth in there. And then I would do, so I would do this, marketer, if that's what you're into, scaling agencies with cold email. I'm just going to do cold, because it's either going to be cold email, cold DMs, or something of that nature. And this is assuming that we're reaching out to agency owners. So helped scale. So this is helped scale. That's clearly an agency. Scale, helped scale. And then he also had a plus sign in there because they'll do like 20 plus clients, that sort of stuff. Place 135 plus sales reps. So this is a sales agency. Writer, scaling, ex-PayPal, founder is a pretty good one. Founder. There we go. And so you get the point. You kind of just go through the list and then you add as many keywords as you'd like. And you always want to add the typical ones, the CEO, founder, like all those keywords you want to add. Again, just kind of depending on who you're targeting. Now, how you're going to narrow this list down even further is by adding exclude bio contents. So for example, if you don't want to reach out to any SaaS people, then you're gonna remove the word SaaS or just any keywords that people that wouldn't be your ICP would have in their bio. And typically the easiest way to do that is just you want to start collecting data from people that did not reply positively or just didn't reply at all. And then you can kind of start adding those guys to the excluded bio contents. And then that works typically the best. So here we go. So now we have 1.6 thousand leads that have one of these keywords and that don't have the word SaaS in their bio and that have more than 100 followers. So essentially like this right here, this bio contents, this is an or filter, which means that it'll have like, you're not looking for people that have all these keywords. You're looking for people that have one of these keywords that don't have the word SaaS and that also have more than 100 followers. So all the filters together are an and, but each filter individually works as an or, if that makes sense. All right, so there we go. Now we have our filters all set up. Now we're gonna go into the automation setup. So we're gonna go ahead and hit next. We are going to do demo. We're just going to call this demo. We're going to hit save, new cold DM automation right there. And then it's going to ask you to select the lead source, which if you hit that notification, it'll just auto select it. Then we're going to go ahead and select the generator type. So what this means is that you can either have AI enhance your messages or you can have AI generate your message completely. I highly recommend you do the script personalizer. Then we're going to go into configure message. For context, you just want to make it super simple. If this was Drippy's offer, we help B2B companies scale through personalized Twitter outreach. And then for the script, I'm just going to paste one of our best performing scripts. So this script right here actually has been working the absolute best for us, and it's because it has a bunch of different elements. And if you're looking for an in-depth, a bunch of different elements that make up our perfect outreach formula, and if you want to know exactly what that formula is, then you can get access down below in the description to this exact document. In this video right here, the best cold DM script in 2025 covers not only the scripts that we're using to get the best results, but also covers the formula set you can build on top of what is already working. Okay, so highly recommend you check this video out. All right, so essentially what this message will read like is it'll say, hey, hello, hi, first name. And then it'll say, put together a list of 1,000 doctors, lawyers, and accountants, or whoever or whatever their ICP is who might be interested in, and then we ask AI to describe their product or service that they're advertising on their site, who might be interested in your lead generation services. And then cool if I send it over, right? So we're sending over a list, and so this gets a ton of replies, and this is working beautifully. And this is actually the main way that we're acquiring new users for Drippy.ai. So we're using Drippy to market Drippy, which is why it's a beautiful thing. And then what you can do from there is you can add variances if you'd like. So you can go ahead and do A/B tests, all that sort of good stuff, split testing, or we're gonna go ahead and skip this for now. You can add as many follow-ups as you'd like as well. So however, you can add as many follow-ups as you'd like. There are no variables in follow-ups, meaning you cannot do, hey, first name, hey, saw you work at company name. Like, you can't do any of that. It's just kind of, you just go straight in for a direct message, no AI, no variables, none of that stuff. And so typically you just want to make it curiosity based. So typically here we do 1,000 free leads. People love this. Okay. So people love this. So we do this one day after, and then we do another one 2 days after that. Okay. And so that typically works the best for us. We're going to go ahead and hit next, and then we're almost done. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to hit show advanced settings, which is the last thing that I had over here. So here we go. We got set up automation, scripts, follow. So you got all that stuff. And again, get access to the document down below in the description. And so what we can do now is we can add a bunch of more advanced settings. So you always want to select skip previously contacted, so you're not reaching out to people that you've already reached out to. So that is number one. Number two, you can do auto like, auto follow, auto retweet. It just kind of depends on the campaign. Typically for most campaigns, we do auto like, but not auto follow or auto retweet. Then number two, you can add a do not contact list. So if you don't want to reach out to a specific number of people, whether that be your close friends, your current clients, your competition, etc., you can go ahead and add that in the settings. You can add an AI language check, meaning if you want to only reach out to people within your lead list that have their profiles in English, for example, you can do that. You can do activity check, meaning only reach out to people that have been active within the last 5, 10, 15, however many days. That typically works really well to improve reply rates. And then you can do prevent cross-account duplicates, meaning if you have more than one account and you don't want multiple accounts to be reaching out to the same exact leads, then you can turn this on all your campaigns. And what that'll do, essentially, it won't allow you to reach out to someone twice, whether that be from the same account or for multiple different accounts, which is super, super important, that not very many tools out there will do. And you also want to do AI location checks. So meaning if you know your target audience is only in the US, UK, Canada, then you can actually go ahead and include locations or exclude locations, whether that be depending on kind of who you want to target. And then again, I typically recommend you start off at 6 messages per hour and then increase by 2 per week to get to 16. You want to give your automation a name, so we can do YouTube demo. And then once we are there, you can go ahead and hit start automation. Then you will be well on your way to getting a ton of replies, booking a ton of meetings, and closing a ton of new clients. All right, so there we go. That is the complete setup, volume 16 per hour, advanced settings. And like I said, if you want a more in-depth tutorial, there is a link down below in the description for you to get access to this document that will walk you through, and that has the in-depth setup videos, has lead scraping videos. And this lead scraping video is honestly really, really cool because I even include a template to a specific clay table. And so that works really well. And then we have a script writing video right here going over all of our best tips and tricks for how to write scripts that actually convert. And we also have an offer where we set this whole thing up for you for only a one-time fee. And so there is a link down below in the description of the video and within the Gamma document as well for you to book a call with our team. And in short, what this offer includes is essentially we will just build out the whole system for you. And that means 10 plus verified blue Twitter accounts. We will optimize the accounts. We will warm up the accounts. We will write the whole DM strategy, meaning you'll get personalized scripts. You'll get follow-up sequences. We will scrape the leads for you. We will upload everything onto Drippy. You'll get a dedicated cold DM expert within a Slack channel, only you guys. And you also get unlimited calls with them, unlimited calls with our customer support team, and you get weekly community coaching calls with me directly. Okay, so if you're interested in that for just a one-time fee, get access to this document down below in the description and then book a call right here for that. All right, so moving into pillar number 2 for the perfect Twitter marketing strategy is content, obviously, right? So, and what I mean by content is really just building out your founder brand. And whether you're a founder or not, you can build it for yourself if you're the founder, or if you're not the founder, you can build it for the founder. And so this is going to be super, super, super valuable, especially right now, especially on a platform like Twitter. And so, for example, this is what I've been working on. And so my account now has almost 20,000 followers, and you see a bunch of people doing this, and previously mentioned Daniel Fazio, but he's doing this. He has a way bigger account, but now he's going more personal with this other account. And I highly, highly recommend you do the same thing. And so I'm going to walk you through how I create content at scale, okay? Because we've been posting this much content for maybe like 6 months now, and in 6 months we've been able to grow the account to almost 20,000 followers, which is pretty cool. And it just kind of makes life just way easier when it comes to Twitter marketing, because people just see you as an authority again. And there's a bunch of things that go into this, but I'm going to walk you through how to create content the easy way, because I know it's very tedious and you probably don't want to be doing this, and I feel you on that, because no one really like loves creating content, but it's really, really useful and it will make you a ton of money. So just bear with me. So number 1, AI content sucks. It's really easy to identify. So just literally don't do it. Okay, just don't fucking do it. It's not worth it. You'll just burn your account. Not literally, but people will know you are the like AI content guy, and it just doesn't work well. I mean, so you have 2 options if you're not going to use AI. Either you're going to do it yourself, or you're going to have a content team to do it. And I'm going to show you how to do both, okay? Because I've been on both sides of this equation right here. I've been doing it like I did in the past, and now I have a content team to do it. So here's how to kind of just make that whole flywheel work very, very well. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to come up with your topics. Okay, so just ask yourself what the different things are that you could talk about that have something to do with what you sell. Okay, so kind of just what are your core things, right? And I think I've heard this example a bunch. Like Joe Rogan has like a very like specific kind of type of person that, like, for example, I've heard this a ton with like Joe Rogan, right? Like he has his like couple little topics that make him very, very unique. So he's obviously got the podcasting, but he's also really into like MMA, UFC, and then he also has like the alien conspiracy theory, like all that sort of stuff, right? And kind of that is what makes him Joe Rogan, the fact that he can talk about a bunch of different things, but he has like his core kind of pillars when it comes to content. And so you should come up with your own topics, okay? So again, you want to ask yourself, what different things can I talk about that make me unique and that have something to do with what I sell? So for example, my topics are outreach, Twitter DMs, conversion mechanisms, which essentially like how to, like what to do after someone replies to your DMs, DM copy, lead list building, what the best offers for cold DMs are, how cold email works with Twitter DMs, how to optimize your profile, how to do follow-ups, Twitter content, outreach metrics, lead magnets, SaaS scaling, agency scaling, all that sort of stuff. And so essentially what you want to do is you want to open up a Google Sheet, just go to sheets.new. If you didn't know the hack, you're welcome. And then you just want to write your topics along the first row. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy a couple of these. All right, so you get the point. So you want to write out maybe like 10 to 20 of these on the header. And then what you want to do is you want to come up with 10 subtopics underneath each main topic. Okay. And the easiest way to do this again is by asking yourself questions about that topic, or questions that your audience would have about that topic that you can answer. If you have literally zero ideas, you can just go ahead and ask ChatGPT. So we're going to go ahead and open ChatGPT. And again, you have access to this document where you can find this prompt down below the description. It's really not a huge like prompt. You can kind of just do this. So you can say, for example, I own a SaaS company that helps B2B businesses scale through personalized Twitter outreach. What questions would my ICP have about? And then I would just do this about Twitter DMs, for example. About Twitter DMs, you can ask it, and then it's going to come up with a bunch of different questions. Then you can just answer those questions. Then you can just copy and paste those questions. There we go. So now it's going to format all the questions, and it's going to be super easy for me to copy paste. And you just want to kind of keep doing this for each one of your topics that go along the header. So there we go. So now we're going to copy. We're going to go here, Twitter DMs. We're going to do that. And now there we go. So now we have a bunch of different questions that we can answer, and then you can go through these and determine which one's good or which one's not good. You can add, you can remove, all that sort of good stuff. But this is just going to give you a really, really good head start. You want to do this with all your topics, okay? So for example, the ones I wrote out for myself is, hey, does Twitter outreach work? How do I write good scripts? How do I build out a lead list? What are the best ways to build out a lead list for this specific niche? What are some of the best practices? What are the best offers for Twitter outreach? How can I turn my cold email campaigns into Twitter DM campaigns? And a bunch of these are actually like answered on our YouTube. So if you have these questions, just go find them on our YouTube, which is pretty cool because I literally do this to like come up with topic ideas. And I actually took this from Matt Larson from 1000x Leads. So shout out to Matt. Highly recommend you check him out. All right, so step one, we came up with our topics. Step number two, we came up with questions about our topics. So these are going to be our subtopics. And now that we've got clear topics to make content about, you've got two different options. So you can either start writing, meaning you can start answering the questions that you wrote out for yourself, or, which is what I recommend, number two, you can record yourself talking about one of your topics, or you can record yourself answering one of the questions that you wrote out. And so here's a little bit on why I think everyone should run number two, even if you're going to have a content team write out like your actual content and post it everywhere. So ghostwriters have been around for ages. What's really difficult for ghostwriters, and what I've seen, because I've worked with a couple, and they've all been great, but I think the hardest part, and this kind of goes for just kind of anyone that's writing on your behalf, it's really hard for people to lock in the founder's voice. Now, they'll obviously have like an onboarding process to kind of help them out with that, but it's really hard for a couple different reasons. Number one, like they're really good at writing content, but they probably don't have the same experience that you have in your field that will allow them to write valuable content on your behalf, right? So like be able to copy, they won't be able to just kind of write, they probably write way better than you, but they don't have your experiences, right? And they don't have your expertise in whatever your field is. So in order for you to kind of transfer that expertise, the easiest way to do it is to record yourself talking about a specific topic or one of these questions for like 5 to 10 minutes, okay? You can go for a walk, just answer one of these questions, literally just take your phone and just record a voice memo. And not only will this make it so that you have a podcast in your hands that you can also like just post, but it will help your content team write in your exact voice. And you have no clue how valuable that is, not only to your content team, but to your audience as well, right? And another thing, if you're going to be the one writing content out for yourself, just recording what you're going to say will just really speed up your workflow. At least that's what I found, because it's just way easier to kind of yap about something and actually like go down and write it out. And so if you just yap for like 10 minutes and then you sit down for another 5 and write it out, it'll just be way easier. And And if you're not sure how to record, again, what you can do is you can just use your phone, or if you want to make it a little bit more professional, if you're actually gonna like make a podcast out of this, you can just record using Riverside.fm. That's what we use, and we also use it for our client interviews and all that sort of stuff. Super easy to set up. You can share with your team and upload as a podcast. And here are a couple examples of what I've done in terms of podcasts. And so once you've recorded everything, then your content team can just kind of like listen to it and build content off of that. Or you can take the transcript, plug it into something like Claude, ask it to give you tweets or any other type of content, and that works really, really well. Or you can kind of write it out yourself. And you can realistically have this transcript from your like 5 to 10 minutes give you tweets, threads, even short form content scripts, newsletters, long form LinkedIn posts. And if the idea is good enough, you can even ask it to give you like a long form YouTube script, which obviously you're gonna have to put some more work into, but it's kind of just the easiest way that I've seen to go from 0 to 1 in terms of I don't have anything to write about to, okay, now I have a question that I can answer. I can go for a walk for 5 to 10 minutes, answer the question, and then it kind of just makes it super easy for either to give it to your content team or plug it into some sort of AI that will then give you like at the actual written stuff. Probably going to be like 60 to 80% of the way there. You can just kind of edit for another 5 to 10 minutes and then you'll be good to go. Now, getting into the followers, because everyone loves followers, and I don't think followers are honestly like too important. That they do work, but it kind of gets to a point. I mean, they will make you look like more of an authority, but I think on Twitter, once you've been around enough, you'll find that accounts with a ton of followers, like people just know that most of these guys got their followers like ages ago, where you could pay like there's a time, and I wasn't around then in like the whole like Twitter marketing world, but I know there was a time where people used to pay like just a couple pennies per follower running Twitter ads to like third world countries. And so a bunch of these guys that have a bunch of followers but have like no engagement, you can kind of just tell that they just got their followers a while back and they haven't grown at all since. So that's kind of how you can tell. So followers, it'll work, but there is a point of diminishing returns. So after you have a couple thousand, then there really is no need to kind of strive for 100,000 followers or whatever. Again, like I said, there is a point of diminishing returns. As long as you have a loyal following, I'd way rather have a loyal following than like a huge following that knows nothing about you. But if you do want to have a ton of followers, then this is how we did it. And granted, we don't have a ton, almost 20,000, but I mean, it's a pretty good number. And so like I said, you are more likely to get higher reply rates if you have a decent amount of followers, meaning a couple thousand. But our best campaigns typically come from accounts have under 300 followers, just because adding a ton of followers to like hundreds of accounts can get really expensive. So just under 300 followers in that typically works really well. So it's really not a huge issue. But in my experience and with the content team that we're working with, the most amount of followers that we've gotten have come through long form threads. And so these are some examples. Again, you can get access to these down below in the description. You can kind of study these, but oh, and I also have a link to the one where Elon Musk commented, which is pretty cool. So okay, what do these have in common? First of all, the first tweet is by far the most important thing, and this kind of just goes with everything. It's the hook, right? When you write your headline, you spend 80% of your of your ad dollar. So the same thing applies. So typically what works on Twitter right now is very strong hooks and an image that grabs people's attention. In threads to be like very, very curiosity based. Okay. And again, you can get access to these so you can study them. So once you have your hook, once you have your first tweet, then you want to dive into the specific topic. And right near the end, my content team is super good at kind of plugging Drippy somehow. Because if your plan is to have these threads go viral, you want those eyes to go to your company, right? Like if it doesn't convert into anything, then it doesn't really matter. So you always want to find a very smooth way to transition into your services. And so we always plug Drippy in a smooth way. And again, so study these threads and you have no issue getting followers. And so that's kind of the main thing. So you want a very strong hook with an image. And it's something that's pretty funny is that the threads that have worked the best for us have always had some like a tiny little bit of controversy about them. I remember this one, there was like this one we made about Steve Jobs, and the picture was a picture from Ashton Kutcher playing Steve Jobs in a movie, and literally this thing got like millions and millions of impressions, and every single comment was people just calling me out saying that it wasn't Steve Jobs, that it was like an actor, but that just kind of made the tweet go mega viral, and it ended up getting us a bunch of followers. So hey, so if you kind of want to go that controversy route, then by all means do so. And yeah, that's a pretty easy way to kind of make your threads go viral. Again, if you want to study these, make sure to get access to this document down below in the description, and you can go ahead and do that. All right, so now that you know how to create good content at scale, I'm going to show you how to capitalize on this. So two things here. If you already have a large Twitter following, you want to at least set up a campaign to reach out to your own followers. And you can follow the same exact process that I walked you through earlier when we talked about the high volume outreach. The only thing that'll change is the lead source. So instead of going after other people's followers, you'll just go after your own. And so that works really, really well. And if you don't do it, your competition will probably do it. So just do it. It's super, super easy to do. This Loom video will walk you through that. And I also recommend everyone, regardless of how many followers you have, to set up a new follower auto DM campaign. And so with these types of automations, you'll easily be able to get your new followers to engage in a sales conversation. You can have them sign up to your newsletter. You can have them check out your YouTube channel, your podcast, or pretty much anything that you can imagine. Okay, so highly recommend that you do this to like in any capacity. And so here's the script that I'm personally sending right now. So if you give me a follow and you fit the criteria that I've set up, this is the message that you'll get. So again, this will be sent out as 4 different messages and no one knows it's automated, which is freaking beautiful. So it's like, hey, hello, hi, first name, thanks for the follow. And then, so that's the first message bubble. Then there's another message bubble that says, really dig the concept behind business name. Do you have any data on who typically buys from you the most? So this is kind of one of those strategies where we're talking about business, but then I'm also hitting them with some personal stuff, which I'll get into, and ask them if they're based there. So it's like, also, are you based in San Diego? Question mark. I've always wanted to visit Coronado. Ha ha ha. Ever been? Question mark. Right. So it ends up being like a super, super personalized message that no one expects, especially because you're sending 4 different messages, like 4 different message bubbles, super personalized, and you're sending kind of a bunch of different things. Highly recommend you add something like this. Again, if you want to just copy and paste this into Drippy, down below in the description, you can get access to this document. And if you are going to be using AI, make sure you have these specific settings turned on. All right, so the third pillar, and this is something that is very, very overlooked, but it's actually just making real connections with people on Twitter. And it's probably one of my favorite things to do. Okay, so it's super simple. Number one, you see someone doing something you're interested in, whether that be someone running a similar business, another type of business completely, doesn't really matter. Just something that you're interested in, and you just genuinely want to connect with them. Then you can just hit them with a follow. You interact with a couple of their stuff, potentially for a couple days, weeks, months. You DM them, and then you become friends over time. It's like networking, but you're not pushy at all, and it's not like weird and fake like when you go to these networking events. Because if you do it correctly and if you time it correctly, they would have seen you. Essentially, if you like follow them, and then there's enough time of you interacting with them in their comments, liking their stuff, like they'll get used to your profile picture. So they'll see that, and then you can DM them with something that's like not salesy at all, and then odds are you can connect with them, hop on a call with them, kind of just chat, not pitch them, which is the key here. Like you just literally just want to make friends, build relationships, and provide value. You do not want to pitch these people. And like really, I think the biggest opportunities have really come from just connecting with people and offering them value either directly in the DMs or on a call. So this is something that you will never see anyone talk about when it comes to like Twitter marketing. This is kind of like not the mass type of outreach, but it's more of like, okay, let me actually make connections with these other people. And if you do this consistently for like 6 to 12 months, then you'll like know everyone on like money Twitter or whatever side of Twitter you want to be on. And then what's really cool is if you just know everyone like you'll be known as the guy that knows everyone and that's liked by everyone. That's a super, super powerful position to be in, because then you can just connect people, right? Like, you know, this guy that does this thing, and then you know this, like you talk to this guy and then he's like, oh, I'm actually looking for XYZ, and you talk to this other guy, and then you can just connect them. And then it just ends up being like this super cool thing where you can just connect people, and you're just providing value for completely free. And it's one of those things that Twitter is super, super powerful, because everyone, like, I don't care who says, like, everyone checks their DMs, okay? And if your DMs are good enough, people will open them. And so use that to your advantage. Twitter is literally the easiest way to make connections, not only to sell people, but to actually make connections with them. And again, that's not talked about enough. And I've made like amazing friends just from doing this specifically. No one is talking about it. It's one of the biggest opportunities on Twitter right now. You really do want to do this with your like main account. You don't want to do this with fake accounts, because that would be really weird. You want to do like high volume outreach with your fake accounts, and then do this and content with your real account, and you will have more business than you'll know what to do with. And then the last thing, and the final pillar of the perfect Twitter marketing formula, is again something that I don't see many people talking about. It has to do with the proximity principle. So again, not kind of necessarily a Twitter marketing tactic, but definitely a hack to keep you moving in the right direction. It doesn't really matter kind of like what stage in business you're at. In this context, what I mean by the proximity principle is that you're surrounding yourself with like-minded people running similar businesses, and you're obviously not surrounding yourself yourself in real life, which you can. And this is actually pretty cool. Like you can like my co-founder I met through Twitter, right? So and like some like I said, some really great friends. That goes more with the previous point, but it's the same thing. Like you just want to surround yourself with cool people, and ideally people that you look up to. Okay, there's no need to connect with them. There's no need to do anything if you don't want to, which I mean I do recommend you do, but just by like reading their tweets, because tweets tend to be like really, like you really get to know someone by their tweets if it like they're doing it themselves, right? And it's kind of just being able to pick their brain and look into kind of their notes, because a lot of people use Twitter as like their notes app pretty much, or like their diary. And it's just kind of looking at how these types of people that are making millions and millions a month think through things, right? And something that I like to do is follow people that make you feel like you're behind. Because it will suck to be like, there's this 17-year-old kid making $2 million a month, and I'm out here. And I think a bonus point on this specific one, if you're following people that make you feel like you're behind. And I know like people aren't gonna like this, but it will definitely light a fire under your ass. So I highly recommend you follow people that look to be more successful than you are, or that are more successful than you are, whatever your definition of success might be, to feel that you're behind, so that lights a fire underneath you. All right, so putting everything together. So first of all, if you've gone to this part of the video, congrats. Hopefully you found some value in it. It has been a little bit of a longer video. I think I've been recording for like an hour and some change now. Don't know what the video will actually come down to, but if you were to ask me what you should do when it comes to Twitter marketing, I'd say just do everything that we've talked about. So do a bunch of outreach, post a bunch of content, follow people that make you better, and make connections with people. Okay, so I'd say just do everything. And a misconception that sometimes people talk about is like, hey, well, if Twitter is this like amazing thing, then why are you recording YouTube videos? And like in my eyes, like these things, like marketing channels aren't mutually exclusive. So I'm not saying that you should drop all your other marketing channels and just only do Twitter. Like that's not what I'm saying at all. But I definitely do think that you should add Twitter to your company's marketing stack, okay? And because I think if you do that, then you'll be good and you won't be missing out from all the benefits that Twitter has to offer. All right, so if you need help setting any of this up, meaning if you need a content team, we can help you out with that. If you need us to set up accounts for you, we can help you out with that. So anything that has to do with Twitter marketing, we are your people. There will be a link down below in the description to book a call with us, and also within this Gamma document. Appreciate you a ton. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.